nonsense.
Hi guys, Rag speaking, and today I want to talk a bit about list building. Of course everyone is constantly tweaking their lists, but I want to dedicate this video to, well, looking at, if you have this basic army you have, you know a bit about how, what units you want, maybe what strategies you're going to use, especially actually what your battle plan is. Maybe you want some flyers, maybe you want an Aegis defense line, but you're not really sure whether you'll need Space Marine scouts or just tactical squads, whether you'll need, I don't know, incubi, witches, whatever. So, especially for that, I want to talk about how you can adapt your list till you pretty much have something that just works. You get to a point where your list, you know what the advantages and disadvantages are, but when you face something, you just know which unit's got to go where, and you know that every unit is going to be able to do their maximum thing. But you can't just take a list and just practice, and get that same effect. Because, well, maybe you could build an entire army around, I don't know, Pyrovores? Is it the Pyrovores? You've got the Biovores that shoot the big blast thingies, right? But you go to the Pyrovores, the other ones, the spore mines, ugly things. Say you want to list about Pyrovores, whatever, even Warp Talons or something. I strongly believe you can build a competitive list around those. But you can't just say, here's my list, I'm going to keep playing it till I know what everything does. It's not going to work, really. You always have these things where you're not sure, where you can't really know, where you're not fully prepared for every enemy. And that's why people tweak their lists, why I myself tweak my list. I have my concept, but maybe I'll give that squad a flamer, maybe I'll give it a plasma gun. And it makes all the difference, because giving that war gear changes the role that unit is going to function for on the battlefield. So, just to give a bit of, I'm just going to talk a bit about my list and how it evolved, and then what you guys can learn from that. Learn's a big word, not really learn, but what essence you can take out of it and use in your own list. So I live in an area that allows Forge World in tournaments, and since I'm not really that big of a fan of battle tanks, DW battle tank, because I think they're quite ugly, they're like normal tanks but a bit out of proportion. So I use artillery emplacements from Forge World. This is not the official model, it's something a friend of mine made. It looks actually really good, and it's all scratch built. So you've got a turret of, I think, a Lehman Russ, and then plastic card and Baneblade cannons. And that's a complete Baneblade kit right there. And he only uses these turrets, unlike this huge tank that just takes up half of the gaming table. These are like turrets that sit on it. And he only uses that in like a big apocalypse game. We hold a convention every year. So in the meantime, they just kind of sit around, and I have had the honor to use them lately. Before I used the same rules, but I had an ugly model myself, and well, it's fine if you're playing against clubmates or anything, but if you go to a tournament, you want to have a proper model. So we've got that, and then we've got some allied Space Wolves, including a Rune Priest. That's going to go with the artillery, give them pressions, ignores cover, all that kind of crazy stuff. I'm going to talk about divination in another video, because I think that's something a lot of people use, but some people really don't know what they're going for. And then the main part of the list, apart from the artillery, is Vendettas. I love Vendettas. They're so beautiful models, and they just work so cool on the battlefield. Especially the fact that it transports and got all last cannons, of course, but the transport really, if I go second, and I'm pretty sure, and I can hold certain units, maybe a flyer in reserve, and just contest turn 5 with dropping out the guys. It works, it just gives you this huge mobility with the guard army. I love the Vendetta. I love flyers in general, so go check out my blog. I think I have an article on flyers. I don't know. So yeah, we've got some infantry squads, of course, in the back. We've got an Aegis defense line with a comms relay, of course. If you want vendettas, if you've got lots of reserves, you want a comms relay. And then some allied Grey Hunters, 7, with a melter gun. It's just gonna screen my artillery from incoming units like Chaos Space Marine, Plague Marines, or what have you, Blood Angel Assault Marines, some kind. I'm gonna screen them at my Grey Hunters, and maybe they'll take a beat, but they can survive for 1 or 2 turns, which is all the artillery needs to give everything a good bang until the vendettas come on to do some hurt. And then, so we've got 2 vendettas with melter gun demo charge special weapon squads, and then 1 vendetta, or I had 1 vendetta with 3 plasma gun veterans, and my warlord, the Primaris Psyker. Woohoo, Primaris Psyker! Everyone loves the Primaris, don't they? So, yeah. So usually I'll keep this one in reserve to avoid Slay the Warlord. And in some tournaments, I went to a recent tournament and I won drastically against our ETC captain, Tom Adriani, simply because I could hold in reserve till turn 4, and because I don't know, we just didn't get around. Tom played very quickly, so it has to be me. It had to be me, probably. We only got to turn 4. I of course went second. I always go second in objective missions with the vendettas. Lots of fun. And yeah, I won that way because you got loads of victory points if you could get your warlord in the enemy deployment zone, and with a vendetta, and that's easiest piece of cake. And then we've got last bit is a Chimera. It's not focusing. A Chimera with originally it had 2 flamers and can't find the models. Yeah, and 2 grenade launchers for the strength 6. I'm quite a big fan of grenade launchers, but I wouldn't put them on normal guardsmen anymore because the BS 3 really hurts them. So maybe on veterans, if you've got some points to spare or something. If you've got points to spare, grenade launchers are generally a good thing. However, the flamers, a flamer on a guardsman is just the same as a flamer on a space marine, so yeah, they're quite powerful. Now, how did this list change over the course? Now, the infantry squads, they stayed the same. The Grey Hunters and the Ruin Priests originally were Dark Angel allies, because our new codex, everyone loves a new codex. A very cheap priest, but it just didn't work out because the Dark Angels couldn't hand that punch out in close combat just as the Grey Hunters can. So I went with Grey Hunters, and it turned out to be, it made such a huge improvement to the list. So always, if you're, say you're playing Eldar, you want some Dark Eldar allies to get poisonous shots, before you build that list, maybe better thing, that's a better example. Say you're playing Tau, and as Tau you want to have some form of close combat defense. You can ally with Space Marines, you can throw in some Space Marines, maybe you could ally with Blood Angels, or with Dark Angels. See, if you're just going to start that army, or if you just have some unpainted Marines lying around, or just like me, if you have a color scheme that's not official, and, well, doesn't really make much of a difference what codex you play, test it out, see, because every codex has a specific task it's good at doing. Blood Angels, I wasn't originally a Blood Angel player, of course, it's very fast, but if you're looking for, say, a psychic support, or no, better yet, if you're looking for something that can increase your firepower, you're not going to look at Blood Angels, because Blood Angels don't have that much firepower compared to like normal Marines or Dark Angels, and so on and so forth. So think about that. That's one thing you could tweak, is the allies you take, and specifically which power armor you're going to use, because a lot of army use power armor allies. Then a second tweak I made was the composition of the Vendettas, because I found that I originally gave these guys plasma guns. Why? Well, pretty logical, because I was like, well, I got to drop somewhere down and blow my opponent to pieces, so I need something that is good at that. Turns out, well, 3 guys with plasma guns didn't do that much. On the other hand, if I faced Mauler Fiends, I did not have enough firepower turn 1. I have some autocannons, and I had to shoot my artillery at the Mauler Fiends, while the rest of his, just because otherwise I would get them into my lines and I would lose. I had some multi-laser shots, maybe some Grey Hunter with a melter gun. It wasn't enough. So, and something else I found, that these guys, often the big blob with the Primaris Cycle was there for, usually because I knew they did not have enough firepower to put the enemy down, I'd use them as line break units. And if they had to run, so if they say the objective is just over there, so say they're standing over here and the objective is the comms relay, and I drop them there, I get them where I want, but they have like a 5-inch run to do, and I'd roll a 4. Now, so what I did was a very simple change, is I put the command squad with flamers, just flamers, no longer grenade launchers, in the Vendetta, and the plasma guns in the Chimera. So that way, I'll put a couple of models aside here. That way, I had some firepower to put down vehicles turn 1 on one hand. And on the other hand, if I had to use this as a line break unit, they can order themselves, move, and roll that 3d6. Plus, the flamers, usually guys have a squad of cultists or anything, waiting in the back, going to ground if they get shot at. And I had to like waste demo charges and all that on them. So that was a bit weird. Or fire this with a ignores cover from the Rune Priest or something. That was really weird. So I've got flamers to take these guys out. So that is a very simple example of how you can tweak your list and make it more effective simply by swapping some units around. Now, that's how it went with my list. I'm going to pause the video a bit. I'm going to come back and talk a bit about how you can adapt this to use in your own army, and what lessons I've learned myself from seeing this process around seeing this process happen to my army list. Hi guys, I'm back, and I'm just going to continue where I left off. So, I talked a bit about what I changed to my list, but maybe if you guys have an Imperial Guard army yourself, that might help out. But in general, there are some things I need to point out first. So, I've decided not to just keep this to one video. I'm going to do this in multiple parts, which you will probably have noticed when you're watching the video. But, so what I want to finish off the video with is, so what you saw me do, or what I did over the last year, because 6th edition has been out for a year now, is I first of all, I adapted to new editions. To the new edition, mainly I went from battle tank Lehman Russes to artillery pieces. But, as you might have thought of, if you're more into the metagame yourself these days, you'll have noticed that by now, battle tanks like Lehman Russes can be quite good again because of that armor value 14 on the front, because people generally only bring plasma guns these days. So it doesn't mean because you change your list for the moment that it has to be definite. And that's why I believe that proxying is not a very bad and is not the worst sin for a gamer, in my opinion. That's purely my opinion. But it's not because you made a certain adaptation that you can't go back. That's something you need to think about. And then also very basic things like the changing in allies, going from Dark Angels to Space Wolves. And originally they were actually Chaos Marines allies before the Helldrake thingy, before the Helldrake FAQ, so they were just same thing, Sorcerer and Rhinos. But that evolved into Grey Hunters. Same thing. I talked about that in the when I filmed the previous bits. So it's not because you have a specific. It's not because you want, say, you have an Eldar force, and you want it to be allied with some Space Marines of some sort. You don't have to restrict yourself to a specific codex, unless, of course, you want to play specifically Ultramarines. But just keep all the options open while you're building your list. I don't know how you guys test your lists. I personally proxy out some stuff, see where I end up. Maybe you guys do this on Vassal, or I don't know, you just buy the whole lot and see where you end up. I don't know. But while you're testing that list, while you're playing just your normal Sunday evening games, think about that. Think, well, it's maybe I don't necessarily need to use this or that codex. Keep all the options open. Maybe you indeed want to ally with Crimson Fists for some fluff reason. I can understand that. I'm not forcing you to drop that, but think about all the options. Maybe your list really requires some, I don't know, some mobility. Then you might go with Blood Angels and just paint them up as Crimson Fists. I don't think there are any tournaments that actually make a problem out of that in the world. The GTs, I looked at the model policies for the GTs, and I think you can paint them. I think even in the GTs you can do that in America. So yeah, just keep all your options open. And then the last tweak here, which was actually the most important thing, and that is what I'm going to talk about in the next video, is just simple changes. Changes in war gear. Don't restrict yourself to war gear. If you, maybe, yeah, sure, that model might have a melter gun. You only might have Marines with melter guns running around. Think about it. Don't just go, I only have a Marine with a melter gun. Well, because I have to use it as a melter gun then for the rest of the century, and try to work out how can you use that melter gun. No. Maybe maybe you really need a plasma gun or a flamer, and just test it out with that plasma gun. And if it works, maybe you can ask a friend for some bits or anything. Don't, while you're building, that was mainly the point of the video, while you're tweaking your list, don't restrict yourself to the models you have, or the models to WYSIWYG. I know this is a very anti-internet statement, but I believe that if you want to be creative, because building a list is creative, tweaking that is a creative process, and you don't have to restrict yourself to money or time on that moment. It's creativity. So I'm gonna end the video at that. I hope I gave you guys some thoughts you might find helpful, and yeah, check out part 2 if it's already on. And yeah, it's my very first video probably, so comment, please comment, get some discussion going, even about the whole WYSIWYG thing. I don't mind, I'll respond to you guys. Yeah, subscribe even subscribe. Thanks guys, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.